Hey guys and gals, sorry for being a bit late on this one, but you can catch all the breaking news as well as all my opinions in my Instagram. The link is in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just now days away from November 1, and if you're an NRL fan, you know what that means. Your favourite player can sign elsewhere for 2024. It is the most ridiculous transfer system in the world, but it's the one we have. So November 1, I'm sure we're going to see plenty of deals get done before then of clubs re-signing their best players. But let's not be surprised if on November 1, there is plenty of clubs preparing their rosters for 2024. And in today's video, I have done my research. I know every single player who is off contract for 2024 and that will be available for November 1. And in this video, we're going to be going through the top 10 biggest NRL free agents for 2024, who should sign them, and how much they are worth. I'm going to be doing it all, so smash that like button. But like I said, guys, there is tons of players, so there could easily be part 2 to this because there's some big names that I have not included. So if you want to see that video, let's try and hit 50 likes. 50 likes on this video and I will drop a part 2. So smash that like button if you enjoy. Comment your thoughts about everything discussed in this video. What are your big free agency predictions for 2024, your most controversial one? Let me know in that comment section, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. We're covering the footy in the off season, we're covering the World Cup when I don't need to sleep, and we will be covering everything rugby league related. But guys and gals, before we get any more into the video, please smash that like button if you enjoy it, comment your thoughts down below, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It is completely free and you can always unsubscribe later, so just smash that button right now. But let's get straight back into the video. Now guys, just for a bit of context, the NRL salary cap in 2023 is going to be 11 million. We do not know what it's going to be for 2024, and I'm doing a minimum and a maximum, and some of these may sound crazy, and they might be, because I only have a vague understanding of how at least the top dog contract's worth. So the minimum, I'm going to do it. Obviously, it's very different scenarios. The minimum, a Penrith Jr., he's obviously going to stay for a lot less than it would take him to go to the Dolphins. And trust me, some of these maximums, they're for the Dolphins and the West Tigers. But let's get straight into it. Coming in at 10th place, I have what may be the most exciting winger since Josh Adokar come off contract, that being Brian Toto, who is arguably the best winger in the current game. I've got him slated at a minimum price of 450k and a maximum of 800k. He did declare he's hitting the open market. However, it's very hard to see Brian Toto in a different coloured jersey. I do think he's pretty much hit the market, just so we can get a bit more cashola in saying that he has already won 2 competitions. He's got an Origin Series to a name. He's about to start a family with his fiancée, so it would not surprise me if he goes out money hunting. The clubs that should be interested, obviously the Storm, the Rabbitohs, the Raiders, the Dragons, the Titans, the Knights, Warriors, Tigers, and Dolphins. Spoiler alert for the rest of the video, they are going to be featured a lot, which shouldn't surprise anyone. It's going to be very hard to see Toto in a different coloured jersey, so my prediction is that he will re-sign with the Penrith Panthers at that minimum price, or as close to it, maybe around 500k. He's got such a good relationship with Luai. You know, Penrith, they'll want to keep him just for much PR purposes. In saying that, I could see the Dolphins or a Tigers going really hard after Toto, especially with it so public how much cash they've got to spend. Also, he'd be great for their marketing team, great for their PR. He's one of the most likeable players in the competition, and that does come into account. You know, off the field is as important as on the field these days, especially in the social media world. But I do think, if I had to make a prediction, is that Brian Toto will be a Penrith Panther in 2024 and for the immediate future. Coming in at 9th place, and it feels like we just sorted his contract out, but David Fifita, I've got him for a minimum of 500k and a maximum of 800k. The Dolphins, they've already pulled their interest. I don't think he's going to get anywhere near to the $1.2 million. And let's be honest, if he wasn't on such a big contract, we would still consider David Fifita one of, if not the best back rower in the competition. I'm almost at the point now where I think he's underrated. Is he overpaid? Absolutely. But I still think he's underrated. The clubs that should be interested, obviously the Titans, and let's just say from now on, I won't include the club who should be interested, because I think every player here, the club will want to re-sign them. So I have the Sharks, the Eels, the Storm, the Rabbitohs, Broncos, Dragons, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Warriors, Tigers, and the Dolphins. Now, these are clubs who should be interested. Obviously, the Dolphins have pulled out, but they're getting a bit desperate at this point. David Fifita, in my opinion, still one of the best back rowers in the competition. I can't wait till he gets a half outside of him. Kieran Foran should do wonders for David Fifita. Haumole Olakau'atu arguably had his two best games around that origin period when DC was out and Kieran Foran is in, because Foran is more of a game manager. We've seen how good he's been for New Zealand in the World Cup. He's just going to provide so much service for Fifita. Unfortunately, he hasn't played with the best halves. Justin Holbrook doesn't know how to use him. We saw how good he was at the Broncos and how good he is at the Titans as well. Like I said, still one of the best back rowers in the competition. If I have to make a prediction, I think that after his huge payday, David Fifita will finally want to get a chance to play finals football, and that's why I think that he will take a bit of a cut price deal and go to the Melbourne Storm. The Storm, yes, they re-signed all those boys, but look at how much they lost. They need some forwards. They've got some serious cash to spend. I can see them getting Fifita on around $6 to $650K for a 2-year deal. Fifita, he'll probably take that. Imagine how well a team like with Munster, Hughes and Pappenhausen could use him. I think he'd do wonders for them. It's only a matter of time before he gets back into the Origin arena, till he gets back in the Australian arena. So I can't wait to see David Fifita. This is sort of more wishful thinking than anything, but I think after a few lean years, David Fifita will end up at the Melbourne Storm. Coming in at 8th place, and I have him just over Fifita, but he's probably the best back rower on the market, Jeremiah Nanai. It wasn't too long ago that he signed a 1-year extension with the Cowboys, and how smart was that? Because I've got him going for a minimum of $500K with a maximum of $850K. The clubs that should be interested, I've got the Sharks, the Eels, Melbourne, Rabbitohs, Broncos, Dragons, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Warriors, Tigers, and the Dolphins. A lot of clubs interested. I think if you got money for a back rower, you go hard for this boy, because, look, I guess we did just have Sam Walker, but it was one of the best rookie seasons in the past decade. He grew so much. He stood up in one of the best games of rugby league we have ever seen in that Origin decider. Try scoring machine. He's good in the air. He can run over you, and he's very solid in defense as well. The reason I'm not going to be speaking about him too long is because I do think he ends up staying at the Cowboys. In saying that, he did re-sign very early on in the season, but like I said, what a payout that turned out to be for him. Such a smart man. That worked out beautifully. But I do see Jeremiah Nanai sticking around at the Cowboys. Look, if the Titans lose Fifita, I think they go hard for him. Storm, they try and offer what they're going to offer Fifita, in my opinion. But I do think the Cowboys, they're so good. And they've got such a bright future if Todd Payten can keep it together, which I think he will, that he stays at the North Queensland Cowboys. Coming in at 7th place, I have another Penrith Panther, Stephen Crichton, and this one's an interesting one because I've got him at $500K minimum, which will likely be him re-signing with Penrith as a centre, but maximum I've gone $900K because I think Stephen Crichton is in the position where he wants to play fullback. The Dragons, Bulldogs, Warriors, Tigers, and the Dolphins should all be very interested in Stephen Crichton, one of the best wingers in the past few years. Yes, he's been a product of that Penrith system, but a proven big game player, maybe the first player in history to score a try in 3 straight grand finals, Outside of Origin, where he sort of struggled, I can't think of a game where he's been poor for Penrith. There's been ones where he's been quiet, but one of the best one-on-one centers in the competition, and his defense is extremely underrated. Outside of Kalen Ponga and Origin, and we'll try to keep that out of it, he has proven to be such a lethal weapon, and he has filled in at Penrith in that fullback role so well that there were even talks that they may have to let go of Dylan Edwards for Stephen Crichton. Obviously, Edwards re-signed early this year and went on to have a monster season, so I doubt he'll be getting a crack there at fullback anytime soon. And while Crichton is like in the same boat as Toto, he probably loves the club, I do think he ends up going. I predict that he will go to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs to be their fullback. Jake Averillo, he is available November 1 as well. There's been no talks about the Bulldogs wanting to re-sign him. I think the Dogs will go hard for Stephen Crichton to be their fullback. He's got that connection with Burton. He's got kick out there. He has the Fox on the wing. And of course, Cameron Serrato is the head coach. He probably also has a relationship as Gus. Bulldogs fans, look, you're going to love being the Penrith Panthers bloody feeder club at this point. Penrith fans, they won't be happy if another one goes to Belmore, but I just think that Stephen Crichton he goes to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs on that $900K contract and becomes their fullback for the long term. At least, that's the plan for now. Coming in at 6th place, the most sought after dummy half, and he's probably only one of two big names dummy half that will be off contract November 1. Everyone talks about how there's not enough halfbacks coming off contract. You can say the same with dummy halves. Rhys Robson will be the best dummy half hitting the market November 1, and there's been a lot of talk around him returning to New South Wales because he was a Dragons junior. The clubs I've got interested are obviously the Cowboys, the Eels, Rabbitohs, Raiders, Broncos, Dragons, Seagulls, Titans, Warriors, and the Dolphins. It's going to be hard for them to keep him because I think the Cowboys may sacrifice letting Rhys go if it's around that 900K mark. Ruben Cotter has been a lead in the front row, but he could do just as well a job at dummy half. That's where Cotter came to the club in the first place. I think that the Cowboys are going to be in a very tricky situation coming up because a lot of their young guns, we've already seen the Hammer get moved on, where it's going to take a lot. They've got the same squad next year, but there's a few coming off contract November 1. The cap is going up, but therefore I just think player value is going to go up. So if I have to make a prediction, I think Rhys Robson does not re-sign with the North Queensland Cowboys. If I had to make a prediction, I'm going to say he goes to the Manly Seagulls because you, this is my video. Nah, he will probably end up back in New South Wales somewhere. But if I have to make a prediction right now, I think he goes back to the Dragons. I'm closer to that 900K mark. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Rhys because this is one I definitely don't know what he wants. I don't know what anyone wants, obviously. This is all my predictions, and I am a genius, so you should listen to me. But I honestly have no idea where Rhys goes. I honestly just didn't want to say he stays at the Cowboys. Wouldn't surprise me either way. I think he's probably the most free agent that's going to be the most unpredictable. There we go. There's some English. The first spot in the top 5 is Sam Walker. We talked about how good Nathan Cleary is for a 24-year-old. Cleary, the best 24-year-old halfback, maybe the best 24-year-old player we've ever seen. Sam Walker was better at Cleary than he was at 20. Sam Walker is doing things at 20 years old that I thought we have never seen from a halfback. He's more of a 6, but no, he's not. He's a halfback. He was so good for the Roosters the past 2 years. When they handed him in that 7 jersey and gave Cleary back the 6, Sam Walker proved how good he was. He doesn't mind organising. His long kicking game can definitely use some work, but he's only 20 years old. Cherry Evans is 33. We probably have at least another 13 years left of Sam Walker. I've got him going for a minimum of 600K, but I do think he can get as close to 1.1 million. The Dolphins, I think out of everyone on this list, they're the biggest, not the biggest chance of getting Sam Walker, but that's the player that I think is likely to sign there the most. And saying that Sam's only 20 years old, he probably doesn't want to leave for a starting club just yet, especially when the Roosters look so close to winning a premiership. The clubs who should be interested, I've got the Sharks, Eels, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Warriors, Tigers, and the Dolphins. All of those clubs need a halfback. If you want one for the next decade, Sam Walker's your guy. 1.1 million. I don't think it's even outrageous, especially if the cap is going to go up. I think you go and you play ball. You give him 1.1 for about 4 to 5 years if you are the Dolphins or the Tigers. In saying that, I do think he re-signs. I think his payday will come, and I think he needs a bit more success first. At least, that's what I would probably like if I was 20 years old. But in saying that, I don't have a contract that big standing in my face. So, Sam Walker, I predict he'll re-sign with the Roosters, but I do think if the Dolphins want to go big on this kid, then I think they're more likely to get him than any other player on this list. Coming in at number 4, minimum 600k, maximum 950k, is the great Victor Radley. And honestly, I wouldn't have him this high, but England have surprised the hell out of me in this Rugby League World Cup, and Radley may just be the best player in the tournament at time of recording. What he has done for England has been so well. I think the Roosters could use more advantage of Radley, and that is saying something. Outside of his suspensions and getting going over the top with his aggression, there is not a weakness in Radley's game. I honestly think that the Dolphins, they could go after Radley as a marquee signing, because look how well he does for that middle. He could be the Isaiah, Look, he's only 24 years old. He's still probably got another 10 years the way sports science is going. He's an unbelievable player, but in saying that, similar to Sam Walker, I think if he wants to get a payday, it'll come. He loves the Roosters. He's a Roosters junior, and the Roosters, they don't have a salary cap allegedly. So, I think Radley will re-sign with the Chooks, but it does not surprise me if the Tigers or the Dolphins go in for a huge contract on the inflictor. Coming in at 3rd, and this is where we're starting to get into big, thick territory. Dylan Brown, minimum 700k, maximum 1.2 million. The clubs who should be interested: the Knights, Warriors, Tigers, Dragons, and Dolphins. Similar to Sam Walker, but instead of a halfback, you're getting a 5'8". Dylan Brown, disappointing in 2021, but has played a key role in this resurgence of the Eels. Remember, the Eels let go of Corey Norman for a 19-year-old Dylan Brown, and he has surpassed expectations. 2022 was a key member of the Eels' charge into the grand final. He's only gone above that, playing for New Zealand in the World Cup. He looks like such a good player. He's so suited to the modern game. He's like a mixture of Munster's hard running game with Cody Walker's ball playing. Obviously, he's not probably as good as either of those players in both, but I do think that he has the potential to be a mixture of the both. He's only 22, so like I said, you're the Dolphins, you're the Warriors. I would love to see Brownie end up at the Warriors, fill the Sean Johnson void. They are so desperate to get back. They are always great when they have a young half throbbing and doing the craziest things on a footy field, the Warriors. So that's where I hope he ends up. My prediction, I think he stays at the Eels on the 900k, so probably mid-range where I've got him on this list. I don't think Brownie's going anywhere. The Eels, they've really stuffed up big time, and spoiler alert, leaving Brown and Moses off contract at the same time wasn't smart. But I think that they're going to target Brown as their top priority, because we'll get into why with number 2, Mitchell Moses, minimum 850k, maximum 1.25 million. The clubs you should be interested: the Sharks, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Warriors, Tigers, and the Dolphins. And I've said the Tigers, I've said the Dolphins a billion times. And I do think that Mitchell Moses will leave the Parramatta Eels. I think he's going to end up back at the West Tigers. He's got a relationship with Benji. Benji has talked about him more than anyone, and that is saying something for the West Tigers. I think the biggest thing this comes down to is, like what I said before, the Eels have really stuffed up, letting Moses and Brown go at a similar time. They're in a rebuilding phase. Moses is 6 years older than Dylan Brown. I think they re-signed Brown. He's got more upside in him, and that leaves the door open for Mitchell Moses to walk. I also think that the Eels, there's a reason why they've re-signed Jacob Arthur. He's very young. And if they are rebuilding, maybe they give Brown and Arthur probably 2 years together before they go on again. So I do think that Mitchell Moses will see a deal from the Tigers that could even be up. Maybe it goes above 1.25. I mean, Cleary's on 1.3, but that's the cap's going up even more. So look, Tigers and Dolphins, if they get desperate enough, Hastings is still off, Dewey's still off, and Luke Brooks, I don't know what's happening with him, so they're obviously trying to have a crack at Moses. They've having a crack at every big dog. I think Moses is coming home. I think Moses goes back to the Tigers, so shout out to Tigers fans. It'll be interesting, but key prediction here, I think that Brown and Moses won't be a halves pairing for the Eels in 2024. And coming in at number 1 is the big fella, Latrell Mitchell. He is at least a minimum, I don't care if you're the Sydney Roosters, at least $1 million, maximum 1.4. Every club, and I mean every single club, obviously the price tag, but every single club should be interested in Latrell Mitchell. He may be the best talent in rugby league outside of Tom Trbojevic at the moment. He looks like he's finally happy. I am predicting he's going to stay at the Rabbitohs. Let's not beat around the bush. He loves it there. The Rabbitohs have such a strong Indigenous following, and Latrell Mitchell, he's one of the poster boys for that community, and rightly so. Arguably the biggest name in the sport at the moment. He's accomplished so much. He'd be in the Hall of Fame tomorrow if he retired, and he's only 25 years old. I won't lie though, I am worried he goes to the Dolphins and follows Wayne because they had such a good relationship, but I do think he loves the Bunnies more. So it's not a very exciting first pick in terms of where he actually ends up, because I do think Latrell Mitchell stays at the Rabbitohs, probably at about 1.2. I can see him doing a combined deal with Cody Walker for about $2 million, so $1 million each, just for like 2 years until Cody wants to hang up the boots, and then they can give some that cash that he sacrifices for Cody in the 2 years back to him. A cheeky back-ended deal, but I do think Latrell Mitchell stays at the Rabbitohs. He is that player that every club will move a superstar on. Like, he's the type of guy that if, you know, the Roosters come knocking, they'll move on Suoliti for Latrell Mitchell. Like, Latrell Mitchell is that sort of player. The Tigers, you know, they'd offer him 1.4. Dolphins probably offer him more, but I didn't want to put 1.6 in there. 1.4 is what they offered Munster, so I think now they know they can't get Latrell. So maybe this is more of a Tigers thing. It's going to be interesting. I've never made a video like this because I have no idea what I'm talking about. Not only contracts, really, I know what the big dogs are on, but predicting where people will go. It's been a very interesting video, but I hope you enjoy it. Guys, like I said earlier, 50 likes for part 2, because there's some huge names that I didn't even mention. This is just my top 10. So smash that like button so we can get to 50 if you enjoy the video. Comment your thoughts about all these free agents and where you think they end up in 2024. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we love rugby league around here, and I've got some mind for 2023. I got some stuff in mind, boys. Uni's done. Let's see where we can take the channel. So, there we go. The top 10 biggest free agents for 2024. Who should sign them? Who should be interested? And where I think they end up. There it is. Smash that like button, guys. 50 for part 2. Comment and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.